Hi, this is Jason Fierstein coming back to you with my video series. Today is Friday. Happy Friday. It's been a short week because of the Memorial Day holiday. I hope you're ready for the weekend already here. So we're talking today about men and failure. I talk with so many men who at the end of the day in some way do feel like a failure, whether they're failing in their marriages or their work lives or with their children, or just generally inside of themselves feel like a failure with their self-esteem. I want to spend some time talking about how to deal with failure if you're a man. So first, let me say that it's okay to feel like a failure. You're not alone. I know it seems strange to say that, but it is okay to feel like a failure, because there are times in life where we just do feel like a failure, especially men, and it's okay. I know culture, and I know maybe your friends and family, or your family of origin for that matter, have communicated to you that it's not okay to feel that way, but I can tell you that it is. Most men feel like a failure at something, like I said, whether it's work or relationships, marriages, friendships. So it's just the fact that men aren't talking about that. We usually want to try to connect around outside activities or sports or drinking or certain things. So I think all of us are feeling like a failure about something, and we're just not communicating it. So it's kind of the well-guarded and hidden secret. Men don't want to feel like a failure or be powerless because we pride ourselves on being a success and in control of ourselves and in our lives. It's an unusual experience to feel like a failure, and there's negative feelings or emotions that are associated with feeling like a failure, oftentimes that we want to run from, especially men. We want to run and hide or avoid those painful emotions because it's vulnerable, because oftentimes there's sadness or there's grief, or you're having to own up to something and the emotions are negative in nature. They don't feel good. And so to feel those feelings, for many men, we want to just push it aside. We want to feel in control and powerful. So I think it behooves us as men to challenge or get past that cultural imperative of being an in control and successful man. Yes, I think we can experience that, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I think it's also would evolve us as men to be able to be available to that sense of failure within us on an emotional level. I don't think it does any damage. In fact, I think it promotes positive self-esteem, vulnerability, and in the case of marriages or relationships, healthier ones. So that's that. I think men need to stop posturing in the world to seem like you're not a failure. We spend so much of our day trying to uphold these egos, and it takes a lot of work to uphold the ego, to be the professional guy that you are during the day. That takes a lot of work. To be the good dad, or to be the good husband, or the good friend, or the good family member, or whatever it is that you are working, whatever role you're playing or trying to fulfill. Sometimes it doesn't seem like we're playing roles. That all takes work to do, and sometimes people take that too far. They work hard and they invest a lot of energy or money or time or whatever into these roles that are designed to try to get others to recognize us as being successful or powerful, and that's just ego stuff. We get caught up in these ego games because it's too difficult to really admit to ourselves or to other people that we feel like a failure, or that we feel like that sometimes, maybe sometimes or maybe all the time. I think that's an important point. It does take a lot of work to be phony, if you will, to uphold that facade to other people. It takes a lot of psychic energy that you could be using to other things to benefit your life for the positive in some way. Feeling like a failure is different from actually being a failure. I think you can experience, like I said, the emotional quality of feeling like a failure, whether that's sadness or grief, vulnerability, pain of some sort. Those are emotions that you can deal with in the here and now. to label yourself as a failure or to identify yourself as a failure actually disrupts things, because then it's almost like self-criticism. You're creating this alternate identity for yourself that, okay, I'm this failure, and then you go out in the world acting as if you're a failure. You're going to attract things, people, experiences that are self-fulfilling, that fulfill that failure thing that's going on with you. So I think that's really subtle and important to look at. Being a failure is a rejection of yourself. You're rejecting yourself when you label yourself as a failure, as opposed to just feeling the emotions that characterize feeling like a failure. Failure is comparing yourself to someone else's standard or even your own standard. So can you give up the need to compare yourself to a standard, or and let yourself do what you need to do anyways, rather than constantly comparing yourself to another version of how you want your life to be or how you think you should be, or constantly trying to live up to other people's expectations, even if it's your wife or girlfriend or parents or colleagues, whatever. When we give people the power over our lives, we let them dictate who we are rather than authoring that ourselves, rather than coming up with those definitions for ourselves. And if you feel like a failure to yourself, you may be dealing with a self-critic, and that might be another issue that you want to look at. So dealing with the failure directly, you can start by having intimate conversations with your intimate partner, your spouse, close friends, seeking out the help of a therapist to talk about those feelings of failure directly. A lot of guys don't feel comfortable talking about this with other men. But the irony is, most men feel this way or have felt this way at some point in the past. Getting over the fear that your wife or girlfriend or partner will reject you if you confess that you feel like a failure. A lot of guys are afraid to be vulnerable with their wives or girlfriends because they think that that's going to push their partner away. Well, the reality is if they get pushed away, that is a problem with them. They don't have any capacity for your vulnerability. But I think that if you explain that you feel like a failure, you disclose that you are feeling vulnerable, that really does open up healthy communication in relationships quite a bit. So I think it's really, really important to try to push through the lack of willingness to communicate with your partner, because talking about the failure, talking about that vulnerability really does open up good conversation and can really evolve your marriage or relationship in a big way. So these are just some things to think about, and then a couple of strategies that you can try at home while you're thinking about dealing with failure. I appreciate you hanging in there. It's been about 8 minutes long. I think it's a really important topic, especially for men, dealing with failure effectively, being vulnerable, risking, going into those difficult emotions that characterize failure, all very important. So thanks for tuning in today. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you very soon. Take care.